Hello and welcome. I am Laura. I'm head of marketing here at Build Empire. Welcome to the webinar. I'm going to do the classic thing and have a little pause while we wait for some more people to join. Obviously, this is a LinkedIn Live, which I'm sure you've used before, but there is a little chat comment function there if you do want to ask any questions to either me or anyone else listening to this webinar. For a bit of context, I have pulled this report together from a lot of different sources, trying to bring one key overview to the world of training providers. So, just to give you a little bit of background, we work with a fair few training providers for their learning platforms, people like MBL to Astutus, Montessori to BPP University. So we pride ourselves on knowing what training providers need and the current landscape for the sector. Prior to writing this report, we had an internal discussion around how training providers are facing mounting pressure because they need to scale, they need to create more revenue. But they are up against, things like rising operational costs, more competition in the space, and ever more diverse learner needs. So one thing that we're really good at Build Empire is taking a challenge and turning that into an opportunity. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but first, let's take a look at some of the key findings in this report. So we will get stuck in now. So I hope you're all here. One of the first things we found when making this report was that training providers face four critical challenges. So, first is resource shortages, second, rising costs, three, increased competition, and finally, ineffective course promotion. So, all of these are holding training providers back, and realistically, for good reason. As the market is becoming more saturated, training providers need to do more to stand out. Another key finding was that learners' discovery habits are shifting. We found out that nearly 50% of learners find training through search engines, which just really goes to show why your online visibility is essential for both survival and growth. Our third key finding was that investment in training is falling while the demand is actually increasing. So, what does that mean in real terms? Basically, wanting more for less. The average investment in training per employee dropped by about 19%, but employers delivered approximately 3.6 days of training per employee. And our last key finding was that digital first learning formats are taking over. Training providers are prioritising e learning, micro learning, and blended learning over more traditional formats. And it's no real surprise when you consider the kind of learner we are targeting today and the devices that we know that they use. So, moving on to industry overview, in 2024, UK employees provided 111 million training days. As I said, 3.6 days per employee per year. The UK's corporate e-learning market had a revenue of around $4.6 million, and it's projected to grow a huge amount, basically 19.5%. Training providers scored the outlook of training industry this year as a 6.4 out of 10. So moving on to the key challenges, we kind of touched on this before, but here are the four challenges most providers are struggling with. 45% say they don't have enough resources. That could be staff, infrastructure, or both. 38% are feeling the squeeze of rising costs, so everything from venues to technology. 36% say competition is really fierce, especially from digital first providers, and 30% struggle with course promotion, which means that great courses often don't actually even get seen. The challenges listed here, they're not new, but they are intensifying. And what stood out to me is the connection between them. Many of these pain points stem from outdated systems. For example, clunky enrollment processes don't just drain staff resources, but they frustrate learners, directly affecting revenue. Training providers who can streamline with automation, integrated payment gateways, and multi tenancy features are seeing these challenges ease. So the takeaway is investing in the right tech. It's no longer a luxury, it's a competitive necessity. So, which of these challenges are causing you the biggest problem at the moment? Let us know in the chat section of the webinar. Moving on to the next part of this report, then, we've got the key trends. So, let's talk about where the sector is heading. Microlearning and personalised learning are becoming the preferred approach. Not massively surprising, probably. Green skills are rising fast thanks to government investment and employer demand, which is a really interesting one to see. Virtual reality is being used more for immersive job-based training, which obviously, has its place and it's a bit niche. AI is still early in adoption, but we're already seeing it help with content generation and things like learner support. And then hybrid learning is, here to stay. Learners want flexible, blended options. So there's some of the key trends there. The biggest question for providers is which of these trends do you invest in now and which do you keep an eye on for later? My advice is to start with the ones that align most with your learners' immediate needs and then build out from there. So moving on, we've got some interesting stats here. So when we asked which learning approaches are most useful, personalized learning came out on top. Interestingly, just in time learning was ranked both very important and not important at all, dependent on the organisation. And I think that really highlights the diversity of needs across industries. And the key takeaway from that, well, there's no one size fits all approach. You need to be flexible, have a portfolio of options that you can adapt to each and every client. Moving on to formats. So we asked which formats providers expect to use more of this year. And the top three were e-learning, not surprising, micro learning, definitely not surprising, and blended learning, also not particularly surprising. More traditional formats like in-person workshops and mentoring still definitely have their place, but the trend is clearly towards scalable digital delivery. So the smart move is to mix formats, keep what learners value, but make sure you're investing where the growth is. On to the next one. Nearly half of our learners now find courses through search engines, so that means SEO is not a nice to have anymore. Accreditation bodies are also important as learners look for recognised, trustworthy providers, and let's not forget the word of mouth, the power that holds. Recommendations and testimonials still carry huge weight. So the question for you is, how easy is it for a learner to find and trust your courses online? Looking at booking trends, so 64% of providers now take most of their bookings online. That shift isn't particularly, surprising, but what's surprising is how many still have quite clunky systems. So learners are expecting a streamlined checkout experience like Amazon or any other retailer. If your enrollment process is slow or outdated, you're going to lose learners before they've even begun. Next, we're looking at engagement, so logins and enrollments. So looking at LMS engagement, January sees the biggest spike in logins, and that makes total sense with the new year, new goals. August and December are the lowest, likely because of holidays. For enrollments, meanwhile, July and September are the busiest months, and again, that reflects learner behaviour, fitting training in before summer and before year end. Knowing about these cycles can help you plan promotions and launches to maximise your engagement. Talk about AI. When it comes to AI, only 3.6 of providers are using it heavily. Most are either experimenting or not using it at all. But where it is being used, it's for content creation, admin, automation, and analytics and personalization. So starting really small can still give you a competitive advantage down the line. Wrapping all of that up, what are some of our key recommendations? So this report points to 5 key priorities, and before I share those, I'd urge you to read this report in full. This is just the webinar friendly version. First is make your courses discoverable through SEO, partnerships, and accreditation. Investing in SEO, building partnerships with accrediting organisations, and strengthening employer links are really, really essential to ensure that your courses stand out in an increasingly crowded market. Second is to standardise delivery, improve ROI. With your budgets under scrutiny and training investment per employee falling, you need to show measurable outcomes. Using an LMS to track participation, completion, and learner performance not only demonstrates your impact, but also builds credibility with employers and potential funders. You need to then connect learning to revenue to do that. So streamline your payments and your enrollments. Rising cost means you can't afford inefficient systems. You need to be integrating payment gateways into your learning platform to streamline enrollment and reduce overhead. And that also ensures a smoother learner experience that directly translates into revenue. Next, you need to smartly scale with technology. So automation, multi-tenancy, AI, resource shortages and limited capacity are holding back growth. Consolidating your systems, embracing multi-tenancy, you can really serve multiple clients or cohorts without multiplying your admin tasks. Emerging tools, analytics, AI can help automate repetitive work and also personalize your delivery. And then embrace learner first modules. Today, learners want flexibility, personalization, and relevance. So, blended delivery, microlearning, modular certifications all cater to those needs. Any provider who adapts their offering to fit their learners' lifestyle while maintaining quality and accreditation standards will definitely gain a competitive edge. Stay aligned with future skills demand, especially digital and green. Green technologies, digital transformation, and AI are reshaping the workforce. Providers that anticipate these shifts and design courses around future skill gaps will position themselves as indispensable partners in national and corporate upskilling agendas. In short, it's about being visible, being efficient, and being adaptable. One little story I wanted to talk about for ourselves is MBL, who needs to move from face to face seminars to a digital first experience. So, by working with us, they integrated everything from booking to course completion into one platform. They added interactive webinar features as well, and the results were amazing. Over 95,000 users and 2,000 courses delivered. So, it just shows you what's possible when you align technology with learner needs. Remember, you can read the full case study on our website if you want to learn more about MBL or other customers of ours in the training provider space, of which we have many. If you don't already know about Build Empire, well, we are a platinum partner of Totra and we've been working in the learning space for over 20 years. We support a wide range of customers, particularly those in the training provider space, and we build better learning platforms for their customers. We've got all kinds of features and plugins that support training providers to get more from their platform. From e-commerce to gamification, we take core Totra and we add to it via our edition. Plus, we are one of the best in the market when it comes to support and uptime. We boast a 99.998% as standard. We'd love to talk to you about your learning needs, so if any of this does sound of interest, please do get in touch with us via our website, buildempire.co.uk, or via our LinkedIn page. So, to wrap up, the training industry is full of opportunity, but also full of pressure. The providers who succeed will be the ones who can prove ROI, embrace digital first delivery, and anticipate the next wave of skill demand. Thank you very much for joining me today. I would love to hear your questions and discuss how these findings resonate with your own challenges and opportunities. So please do feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or via our website. Thank you very much, and I will speak to you soon.